All right, thank you for joining us for session 2 on executive functioning. If you were not able to join session 1, we do have that video up on our YouTube channel, and I can share that link in the chat. This one will be recorded as well and shared there when it's all ready to process. So just as a reminder, we are recording, so any discussion we have or questions you guys have, please keep student privacy in mind. And with that, Casey, take it away.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy you came back and I didn't offend anyone or do anything weird the last time to make you not want to come back or say, why am I doing this? It's a waste of my time. I've been in a 2-day conference that was on Zoom calls, and I really felt for the people who were presenting because some of the things they were presenting on were not visual things. And so I felt so bad for them because at times it was really hard for them to get their points across to the audience. And I knew what they were talking about as a veteran teacher, but I knew, newer teachers were probably struggling to be like, what is the point here? What are they doing? And I just felt so bad. So I kept thinking, oh, thank goodness executive function is something that is very visual and we can do some fun stuff with. So real quick, I wanted to say that I'm really sorry about the Google Classroom issue. Our district tech department changed or blocked actually any access to our Google Classrooms from anyone outside of our district. And they didn't tell anyone. My husband is a principal and he didn't even know. So it has caused quite a problem within our district. Hopefully we're getting that resolved very soon, but nothing we can do about it now. Unfortunately, I had to go in with my personal Gmail account, create a Google Classroom, and only someone with a true Gmail account, so a personal Gmail account, not a school one, not a Google Suite, but a personal Gmail account, then you can join. So if you weren't able to join or do the test, it's, you're not being graded, so it's no big deal. No worries there. I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to share my screen. If I can find what I'm looking for. Can you guys see my Google Slides? Okay. I'm gonna shuffle some stuff around and we'll get going. And I'm gonna move on through session 1. While I'm getting to session 2, did anyone have any questions regarding session 1? You can unmute yourself and just speak up, that's okay.
Just an appreciation for the screener that you had us take, the executive functioning test. I enjoyed that. I had my whole family take it.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening. Okay, so I put the new Google Classroom join code up on here. I put an example that you need, something at gmail.com to join. And I'm sorry, it's not my fault. So I know that Megan shared, that she had her whole family do it. And for me, it helped really kind of validate, like, I knew I always really struggled with this kind of stuff, but now I saw it in writing and it really broke it down into sections and chunked it for me. And I saw where, yeah, I'm a little better at this, or I'm not so great at that. Did anybody want to share your results? And did it change, how you, I know the first time I did the quiz, it really changed how I approached my work, how I prepared for things. I know that now I cannot be one of those cute Pinterest teachers that has a very decorated desk and lots of pretty cute DIY things, and I can't have that. I have to have a clean desk with a notepad, my mouse, and my laptop, and that is it. I cannot have more things on my desk. I would love to. I'm a very visual person, but I know for me, my brain can't handle that. So it helps me know how I need to organize my workspace. It helps me know how I have to organize my classroom, because my classroom serves a very diverse population, whether it be medically, behaviorally, academically. I have physical therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists that worked within my classroom. I have 4 aides within my classroom. And so it's a very busy room. And I know if my classroom is not highly structured for myself, I can't focus. I can't transition around the room or find what I need. And so that in turn helps me understand how I need to support my students to have a distraction-free classroom. I used to, when I first started teaching, go online and get all these amazing ideas, and it was so bright and busy. And now when I look back at, pictures from some of my old classrooms, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did anybody accomplish anything? Because it was so busy, and it was just visual pollution and busy work and all of these things that look cute and are the ideal Pinterest and all these things that young teachers really like. And no bash on young teachers, because they're awesome, but I just really now looking back, I know for myself and for my students that that sort of thing does not work. So I wanted to get some feedback from anyone else if they were interested in sharing. No pressure if you don't, but did it change how you perceived yourself or how you do your job?
I scored pretty low on emotional control. So if I get like some sort of stressful or critical feedback, like to start off my day, it really just kind of snowballs my whole day, which was not a surprise. It was just a validation.
Yeah.
I already know.
But now you can show other people those scores and say, look, it's a real thing.
Yes.
I'm not just being crazy. Anybody else want to share? Nope. Okay. Moving
I
on.
will.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I will really quick. For me, the reason I had my whole family do it was just so that I knew how, like, one of my daughter's bedrooms is spotless. The other one is clean, but cluttered. And she likes to have everything out, and so that she can see it all. But that works for her, and she knows where everything is. And so I was just trying to understand why my children are the way they are, why my husband organizes his stuff in a completely different way than I would ever, I wouldn't consider that organization, but it totally works for him. So it was just good. I think it helped us to understand why we communicate the way we do, why we organize the way we do, things like that. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Good. Yeah, it's really fun. I sometimes do a teacher training for our whole district, and it's really fun to see the teachers in the room, because I'll say, at your table, share your scores and talk about it. And a lot of people were like, that can't be right. They're very offended by it. And it's like, just accept it, and it's a snapshot. It might not be completely accurate, but it's okay. It's okay not to have a perfect score. Or, yeah, I know I really stink at this and whatever. So I think it's just a lot of fun. It helps see, if you ever do, if you've ever been to a training where you've done the color personality test, those are always really fun too. That kind of plays along with the executive function. So a lot of times if you are an orange person, which I always come out being an orange person usually has executive function deficits big time. And so those all kind of things kind of play in with each other, and they're just really fun to help us see that we all think differently, our brains work differently, but we can still all be, as in our case, I'll always say, you're all still highly qualified professionals. It's how you approach your job and understand your weaknesses and build on your strengths. So just something fun to do. And it would probably be fun for you guys to do it, if you're with a group of, I went the wrong way. Gotta get out of here. But it would be fun to do if you, excuse me, had a staff meeting yourself, or just your small team group, to see how you all work together. I do it with my paraprofessionals because we are all so different. All right, so I wanted to share with you guys today something that I have been doing for about 11 years. It's called a color binder system. And so I have always done this within my classroom. My classroom is not self-contained. We are full inclusion regardless of ability or cognitive ability. The only time I ever have kids contained within my classroom might be for a medical reason or behavioral reason. And they very quickly move out of that. We have a system where we work out of that. And so my belief and my philosophy for teaching is that my students that are on my caseload will be working on grade level academic work regardless of ability or cognitive scores. There's always a way to do that and teach it. You just have to be creative in the way you modify things, you change it, you teach it, you use objects, you use pictures. And we have been really, really successful with that. This is my fifth year. I think this is my fifth year at the middle school. And prior to that, I worked for 7 years at the high school in Spearfish. And so when I first came to the middle school, I had not done middle school before. I was high school. And then prior to that, I was early childhood. And so when I came in, I just kind of let the kids do their things. The whole school used trapper keepers and a weekly planner. And so I was like, okay, let's just get this. And we could just never get a handle on it. I only had 6 kids on my caseload my first year. And so it was really easy to have a really small group and kind of pilot something and work on it. I had used this system prior to coming to the middle school where I am now. And finally, after a couple of months, I was just like, this is insane. Why are we using a trapper keeper? And so we started doing a binder system, and that is where you have one color-coded binder per subject. And so English is blue, math is orange, science is green, social studies is purple. And I got a lot of kickback on that at first from people. Why do we have to do this? This is different. I don't like this. Why can't I just use my trapper keeper? And the thing that I always tell kids is, tell me right now, where's your geography packet? And before, when they had a trapper keeper, and they would just look at me like with this, trying to just, their brain was just turning and rolling like, I know it's in there, it's somewhere, but I don't know. And they could never keep that thing organized, and they never knew where anything was, ever. Or I'd say, every week we would do a missing assignment check or a grade check. And I'd be like, why do you have 8 missing assignments? You have a planner. I'd look at that planner. The assignments that were missing were from the week before, and they had flipped the page. So guess what? It didn't exist. To someone with executive function, if you can't see it, well, it's not there. It's not a thing. So long story short, we did this. And when I even first started these kids, we had to start at the very basics. And back then, backpacks were not allowed in the middle school. And these were some kids that hardcore struggled. And so I even found mesh see-through backpacks. So I would say every Tuesday and Thursday, we're doing a backpack and binder check. Now I can't legally go through their backpacks, but we call it a backpack dump. So every Tuesday, Thursday, I would write it on the board before they came to school. Today is a binder and backpack check. And they would know, oh shoot, if I have stuff out of place, I'm probably not going to get some free time on Friday, or I'm not going to do this. And so it was really easy to manage and maintain because I only had 6 kids, and they got really, really good at it. And in fact, my rule was back then, 6th and 7th graders don't get a choice. We're doing a binder system. We actually wrote it into the IEPs as an accommodation, as a color-coded binder system, and carrying a backpack, because at that time, backpacks weren't allowed. Once they became 8th graders, I would say, it's your choice if you want to have a binder system or not. It's up to you. And every time they'd say, I don't need it, I don't need it. And 3 weeks into school, they would say, Mrs. Sumners, can you please help me set up some binders? I can't find anything. These are kids who are now juniors in high school. They still use binder systems independently. They might not use a separate binder for every subject, but they color code their folders. They use checklists independently, cognitive kids. So this is very teachable, it's very workable, and it's very meaningful to people who need this. So what I put up here is just a screenshot of a web page from our middle school website. It's on our parent support page. And this is our second year implementing the binder system. And I had really been trying to preach it to teachers, for 4 years, and it didn't go anywhere, or 3 years, sorry. And one day I had a teacher walk into my room and she's like, tell me about this, because I have a whole wall, and you'll see a picture later, and we call it the motherboard. It's a color-coded wall of knowing where all of my staff need to be all day long and what assignments are due in what classes, and it's completely color-coded. And she's like, tell me what you got going on here. And so I was explaining it to her, and the whole purpose of executive function, and why, adults need this too. This whole wall is for my staff and for myself. And she said, we have such a problem with missing assignments, late work, losing things, disorganization, and behavior. Behavior was through the roof. And I said, well, I can guarantee if you do this, you're not going to have any issues. So she took it back to her team. This was a 7th grade teacher. They came back to me a week later and said, we want to do this. Give us what you got. How do we start it? So I shared all of my stuff with them, even my supply list for parents, and they started getting everything ready. Well, then our 6th grade teachers had caught on to it because they were having so many issues with missing assignments, late assignments, behavior. And they said, well, we want to try it too. And so this is our 2nd year piloting it. It went really, really good when we first started it. We had within, I have it in here, I can't remember the time frame. I think it was the first trimester. I think it was the first trimester. We tracked the data. Our behaviors were down. I don't have that data anymore. It's in an old presentation, but our behavior referrals were significantly down. Our missing assignments and late work went down 40%. 40% in one trimester. That is huge. So I, kind of pitched it to them that you have to really put some work into this. And they were super pumped up about it. They were like, oh yeah, we're doing this. We're even going to color code our doors. And on the first day of school, we're going to wear the color of the subject we teach. And they were awesome about it. They were really going to do it. And then we got those results back and we talked about it in January, and we're like, oh my gosh, you guys, 40%. And, then they started doing it, but then they got comfortable and didn't push it so much, because then we were moving into state testing and all of these things that, teachers have their observations and all of the things that we all get very distracted with and busy. And as teachers, we're pulled in 100 different directions anyway, and they got comfortable with it. We weren't checking binders and we're doing these things. So all those behaviors, all those missing and late assignments started creeping back up, going back up, and then we hit quarantine. So that kind of fell off because you can't really do a binder system from home. School started back up this year, well, because of COVID, a lot of people were very uncomfortable being in team meetings. There were a lot of people who needed to be in masks or pulled in other directions, because we had these committees to help get school started back up to be safe. So the focus wasn't put back on the binders, and we just jump started back into school with all of these binders and a system, but we had all these new teachers who had not been taught. We had the old teachers who never really got a ton of training that they needed. And so we didn't have a good start this year with this. And then we were getting people like, oh, do we have to do this one more thing? Like, why am I having to do this? And so we're going to kind of get into that a little bit once we get in here, but I put the, excuse me, I put the link down at the bottom in here for our middle school. So you can go in and look at that. These are all individual documents that you will be able to open up. You can print them off. They're great. I'm going to move my little screen here. Oh no. Sorry guys, I went to the wrong page. There we go. All right, so this is the infographic, the science behind a color binder system. And I'll just very slowly go through this. I made this because we had a lot of parents that were hardcore, like, all of my kids have used a Trapper Keeper. This is what they've always done. We want a planner. And we even had some teachers that were that way. And I kind of just finally had to be like, yep, you did. And that's great. And this is what we're doing now. So I thought we need some visual supports because that's the thing I always preach, visual, visual, visual. So to reduce parent behaviors and teacher behaviors, I created visuals. So this is the science behind a color binder system. We also introduced this to students within the classroom at the beginning of the year, or that's my hope that every teacher is, I don't know if they are, to talk to students about executive function. So here's just a little graphic explaining what it is, how it works. Excuse me. We want people to know that the average age of full brain development is around between 25 and 30, somewhere in there. You know, the big part of this is we do this and there is a real reason. It's not just because Mrs. Sumners, this is what she does and she wants everybody else to do it. There's a real reason. And a lot of times I tell teachers, you need to be doing this to reduce behaviors and increase learning. You cannot expect kids to learn in your classroom until you take care of all these other things first. When you do, smooth sailing from there mostly. So we really want to reduce anxiety and increase confidence. Excuse me, guys, I'm going to get a drink. So we know that when the brain is chaotic, I always say this is what your kid's brain looks like. So it's this little hamster on a wheel, but he's really struggling, missing or lost assignments, disorganized, behavioral issues, time management, anxiety. But we know when a kid has all those things, they shut down. They're not listening. This is the reasoning for parents, because a lot of them want to know, well, why do we do this? Well, this is why. You know, we want to support parents in knowing when tests are given, due dates for assignments, completed missing assignments, where materials should be. And these binders are very meticulously labeled, put together. They're extremely simple. And all of the homework due dates are on the front of each binder. So this helps parents. The feedback that we've gotten from parents, the majority has been really positive. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't have to go searching for a teacher plan book. I didn't have to go searching on Infinite Campus. I'm intimidated by Infinite Campus. I don't have a computer at home. Lots of reasons, like, or people were like, I'm trying to help 3 kids at once do homework. I don't have time to be going and searching on campus and looking on Planbook and looking on teacher websites. I need to know right now what my kid's homework is. And basically they can pull their binder out and voila, right there. These 3 things have not been checked off. So here we just talk about when we calm the brain, then everything else can come. So this is available for you guys to download, look at, whatever you want to do. Just kind of some background. They started piloting the binder system in the fall of 2020. Our middle school is grades 6, 7, and 8. Our grades 6 and 7 are piloting it still. They did this because they were looking for strategies to reduce our missing assignments, low grades, high behaviors. We transitioned from Trapper Keepers and planners to 4 color-coded binders with checklists. And it almost seems a little too simple, but it works. So yeah, it was the first trimester, missing assignments went down 40%. The thing that we, excuse me, in January retouched, we had a staff meeting and we retouched on the binders and just kind of retaught what it is, why we do it. And I just use these really simple infographics that I made for parents, for our new teachers, and to retouch on it with our older teachers. And right now I got feedback from teachers who are really being really diligent about it. And they are reporting really positive outcomes in all areas for struggling students. And then last month, our special education director reported at our SPED meeting that referrals for special education testing in the area of organization and behavior has gone down since we've done this. So that was really, I didn't know that was going to happen. So that was really awesome. All right. So another infographic that I made on there was how to set up a color binder system, and it is very specific. This is printable as well. So what I put on here are rebuttals or questions, and these are all from teachers, people that I work with, and I don't, you know, they're just, it's good to question and ask why and get answers. So these are some of the things that they've asked. So when I do my trainings, I always say binders must have a clear front pocket, and that's where your assignment checklist goes. And the reason why I know all these things have been said is because if a kid is chronically struggling, teachers will contact me and say, can we send them down to you? Can you help them with their binders? And I say, of course. So they come to me and I say, grab everything from your locker and bring your backpack. And when they do this, I say, dump everything on the floor. I know in the first 5 seconds what's going on. I know the teachers who are diligent with checking binders. I know the teachers who are diligent in saying, put this on your assignment checklist. I know the teachers who help kids set binders up, and I know the ones who don't. So the teachers who are not fans of this system, and the one thing you have to know is that when you try to do a whole group thing, there are people who are resistant to change or don't feel that this is necessary. A lot of times, those are the people who don't struggle with executive function. Those are the people who do very well being organized and planning and doing all these things. And those are the people who don't relate well to kids who struggle with executive function. Those are the people that have high referral rates. Those are the people who are writing kids up or sending them to our behavior room. And that is gen ed, SPED, whatever. And that I always tell them, you're not going to like to hear this, but it might be a teacher problem, not a kid problem. You need to understand how this kid operates, or of the large majority of middle schoolers. So anyway, rant over. They will say, why can't we just put these checklists inside of the binder in the front pocket? Because if it's not out, when they're in class, they're expected to, so let's say they're in social studies, the purple binder goes on the table in front of them. And when an assignment is given, they are expected to pull that out, write the assignment down, put the date, and put it back in. That's why, because for kids who struggle with this, if it is out of sight, it doesn't exist. It has to be in front of them. We've always used planners. Why can't we just go back to those? And I'll say, well, because when you work on assignment 1 week and they don't get it done and it's time to move on to the next week, you flip the page. Well, guess what? It's no longer there. To a kid who struggles, that homework doesn't exist anymore. And if you ask them about it, they're going to go, what? I don't know. What do you mean? I don't remember that. There's a reason why we don't use those. The folders must be see-through. So we get these tabbed, they're kind of cut in half. They come in a packet of 8 and they have all the colors that you need. They're at Walmart and they're great. And what they say, why can't we just use regular folders? Because for a kid with executive function, you need quick retrieval without having to put a lot of thought into it. It's kind of the same analogy as that I say kids with executive function need to have mechanical pencils. The reason being, if they have a regular pencil, they're going to break it constantly because they fidget. And then they need to walk across the room to sharpen it. But guess what's going to happen when they walk across the room? They're going to talk to a buddy. They're going to trip over something. They're going to make fun of, joke around with somebody else. They're going to need to touch something else. They need sensory input. All these things are going to happen before they even get back to their seat, and it's time wasted. A kid with executive function issues needs to very quickly look at something and gain information from it quickly. So that's why we do see-through half folders. Each section of the binders must be labeled and set up exactly the same way for each subject. A lot of teachers or kids actually will say, my system works better. I know where my stuff is. I don't need this. I like it my way. And I'll say, do we have rules in our school to keep people safe? Yeah. Do you have to follow them? Yeah. Are you a danger to anyone? No. But you still have to follow them, right? Yeah. Okay. These binders, they are a rule, and they are what we're doing, And do you necessarily need them? Nope, but everyone else does. And someone else might need to look at yours and know the right way to be organized. You might be able to help somebody. And so what I tell teachers is a lot of times I've caught teachers telling kids, well, they don't need it. They can just do their own thing. No, they can't. Not when you're doing a whole grade level approach. If we are doing it, that's what everyone is doing, because we have to be consistent. Each subject must have its own binder. What I get from teachers, I was in a meeting last week, and someone said, why can't we just put 4 different color folders into one binder? Eventually you could, once this is taught. But when you start teaching, you have to start at the basics. Kids with executive function, or even adults who struggle, cannot chunk information. They cannot quickly go into one binder and say, oh, I need to flip to green because that's science, and then I need to dig through here and find my vocab list. Excuse me, they can't do that. Not at first. There's a whole process, and you have to start out very simple. All students have the same system, same thing I was talking about before. And when you're using a system, there must be consistency and time investment. What I tell teachers all the time, this is an investment. It's gonna seem like a lot of work to you at first because you're not used to it. And there's a lot of people right now who are resistant to that. And they just, it's not what they've always done. They're not interested in it. It's not their focus, and they want to be doing something else. But if 2 teachers are going to do it and 2 aren't, we're not getting anywhere. We all have to be very consistent. So the one thing that I always tell teachers, regular checks are really important, and they should be done weekly, if not bi-weekly. We do in my classroom, and then some of our teachers now are doing weekly binder checks. I do binder checks twice a week in my room with my newer students. We do backpack checks. We just do a backpack dump once a week. And then we do grade checks every week. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. So this is kind of the system. If you want to try it, this is the order that we go in. You dump your backpack, we get everything in order, we set up each binder, we clear out the old system, and we sort the papers, and usually there'll be a giant pile of papers on the floor in front of me, and I'll hold each one up at a time and look at the kid, and I'll say trash, homework, or notes. And then we have 3 piles. And then from there, then we'll sort those papers. Then we make a plan for how their binders will be carried. So I'll say, if you have science and social studies in the morning, then those are the 2 binders you should have in your backpack. Math and English should be in your locker. And we label those binders AM and PM. That doesn't work out for every kid in our middle school. So, and then just really consistent checks. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about is what I wanted you to try. And I don't know how many of you, this isn't something I'm requiring of you or something, that you have to do. But I thought it would be fun, and I'm not sure how many of you work directly with kids. I wanted you to try this and let me know how it works for you. I'm really interested to see how things can work in a different setting with different ages. I know some of our elementary teachers are trying this right now, and they don't specifically do binders, but they do color-coded So if we have kids who use the teach model, and I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the teach model, but it's just a left to right work system that's color coded. They actually, you know, if they have work to do in either baskets or folders on the left, each basket or folder will be color coded to the subject. And then the kids will pull one at a time over, work on it, and then put it to the right and finished. And we've had really good success with those. And they're like, oh my gosh, it makes much more sense, because that way, you know, if you're trying to teach all of these things, you need to make it very visual. And we know kids who struggle either behaviorally, with executive function, you know, all of this stuff kind of goes hand in hand. When we talk too much, the behavior increases and the desired outcome is not going to probably happen for you. And so I have a new staff member in my classroom right now, and we're really working on reducing the verbals and increasing the visuals. And she tells me every day, like, oh, this is so hard because I'm a talker. And I'll say, yeah, you have to stop talking. That's why you're not getting anywhere. And so I thought it would be fun for you guys. I'm sorry, what? Might be just somebody clicking in. If you could choose a student that you're working with who you may believe struggles with executive function, maybe just behavior, maybe just organization, maybe homework completion. A lot of times anxiety in kids and behavior will be because they're overwhelmed and they don't know where to start or where to begin. That's why it's really important that you have one of these systems in place for them. So I thought it'd be fun if you guys pick somebody that you work with. You could, even if you're a supervisor, you could do this for people who work under you that you supervise. I do this for my support staff in my classroom, and I'm going to show you some examples. But you have all of the tools to know how to set up the binder systems. If you don't work with somebody who can use a binder system, contact me. We can come up with a game plan of how you can support someone else. If you don't want to do it, that's okay too. I'm not grading you. Really important to provide visual expectations and implement the system until our next session, collect some data. I'm really excited to see how other people will use this. And please reach out to me if you get stuck, and don't put a lot of time and effort into it. I don't want to say not effort, but I guess don't stress out about it. Don't go spend a bunch of money buying binders if you can't find colors. The one thing that we are going to try next year, and it's just like the OCD in myself, or just knowing how the system works. The teachers all want to go to white binders next year, and then just put a colored homework checklist in the front of each binder, correlating with the class that they teach. And so I was willing to bend and be flexible on that. I don't like it, but just because if you have 4 binders in your backpack, you can't easily retrieve which is which, and you have to put more thought into it. You can't quickly grab your blue binder. You have to look through you have to kind of sort through the front, but I'm willing to be flexible on that. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with doing this? You don't have to do it. I just thought it would be fun. Nope. Okay. And if you weren't able to take the quiz, I put the link up there if you wanted to do it. It's pretty fun. So these are some examples of the assignment checklist, and I'm going to put all these documents in the Google Classroom. I just haven't had time to do it. So here's an example of what our assignment checklist looks like, and then each teacher prints it on the color of paper for the subject that they're with. So science prints this on a green piece of paper, and every kid has it in the front of their science binder. This over here, these color binder procedures, this is an old example. So when I first started doing it, I don't do this anymore, but when I first started doing it, our colors stayed the same, but every kid had so let's say English had a blue pen, a blue highlighter, and a blue pencil in it. And we were really hardcore into it, you know. And so, and then each binder had a pencil pouch with all of these things in it. We don't necessarily do that anymore. Each kid just has one pencil pouch. I don't like that, but that's easier for the grade levels. This is how I used to break down the binder sections and that what each binder should contain. You can really do it however you want. This is not how our whole middle school does it anymore, but that's how I did it when I initially came to the middle school, when I had a really small group. So this also helped my students to know, and another way to break it down into a chart is things you do and things you don't do with your binder. You don't leave your pencils out. You don't have loose papers all over in your backpack. The one thing I tell kids, I should never look in your backpack and see any paper in there. Everything should be organized. And then this is a weekly schedule of what happens in my classroom. So we do grade checks on Monday, binder checks on Tuesday, Thursday, missing work checks on Wednesday, and Friday is another missing work check. And we usually do backpack checks on Friday as well. We used to do backpack checks every Tuesday, Thursday, but we're kind of just moving into just once a week because we don't really need to do it so much anymore now that kids are more familiar with the process. This is a supply list from a long time ago, and our grades still use this one. I'll share the ones that they use now, but we actually broke this down for parents because when parents, just like kids, try a new task, it's overwhelming. Even if it's as simple as, oh, let's just get 4 binders instead of a trapper keeper. You wouldn't believe the amount of people that freak out. They lose their minds over it. This is not what we do. So I made it very easy for them. Everything on this list is from Walmart. Our new updated list that I will share actually has the price for everything broken down too. And so by the time that the parents buy everything that they need is exactly $30. But I made it visual for parents, and I made it kind of fun for the family so they could go and try to see what they needed to get so we could reduce behaviors. This is something new that I had made. We have a poster maker at the school. So in all of our classrooms, I had our assignment checklist blown up. So each time a teacher gives an assignment, they walk over on this poster, and I gave 2 views of it. So kind of a far back. This is one of our 6th grade math classes, and then a close-up. So they put all of their assignments on here, and the kids copy what they are modeling. And so this has been, from our math teachers especially, they said this has been a huge help. And that way, during study hall too, the kids can go up and the teachers will say, if you didn't write everything down today, you need to go up and check the assignment checklist and get your binders updated. So that's been a new change that we've made. This is my last slide, but this is that, we call this the motherboard in my classroom. And so I do 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and each grade is broke up on 2 sides of the hall, 2 colors. So it gets really confusing for us. I have 5 adults who work in my classroom, and we have to be a lot of places all at once. And so you can see where I've color coded each subject. This is 6th grade over here. And then you can't see it, but under each thing you can see, or next to it, sorry, is a picture of the staff member and their name and where they're supposed to be at each period. And then down here, we write any assignments that have not been completed. So you can see where I wrote over here on 8th grade for math. These are the things they're working on this week that they needed to get done. 7th grade, this is our schedule order and our staff order. And then you can see 8th grade. I have a lot of 8th graders. So sometimes we might be in 2 classes at once, 2 different classes at once. So everything's kind of doubled up in 8th grade. But at the beginning of the year, wasn't this year, but last year, I didn't have this done in time because our laminator broke. And you wouldn't believe the freak out that my aides had. I don't know where to go. And I said, I gave you a paper copy. And they're like, I know, but I can't just walk in and see it. No, and what if I lose my paper? And I'm like, okay, I'll get it done. And I needed it just as much as they did. So this isn't something that's just for kids. This is something for everybody that will help everybody. And I think that's my last slide. So I think we're out of time. And I just wanted to check in and see if anybody had any questions or how you were feeling. Is anybody not okay with trying a binder system or?
I have a question for you. So I have high school students, and so I always have my freshmen and sophomores use a homework folder, and every day they have to write down what homework they have done, and then they have to take it home and have the parents sign it and bring it back just to try to get that homeschool. And they have a consequence if they don't, but and eventually we work as they get older, they have to come up with a system to record what they have, keep track of things. How does that work? How would the binder system work do you do a homework folder or something to keep track of assignments? Because for
Oh,
some of
yep.
my students, if they were to have a binder and they each have those assignments written down in each thing, like for them, it would be more helpful to have a main, like this is my main list. So they don't have to go through each binder, you know what I mean? Does that make
Typically,
sense?
we don't do 4 binders at the high school level. That's why we're trying to teach it at the lower grades. That's
Yeah.
why we're even trying to get this kind of started in the elementary level, because our hope is eventually we don't have to do 4 binder systems, on your homework checklist, it wouldn't have to be specified to just one subject. It could be all your subjects. For your high school kids, they could just do 1 binder with 4 color-coded folders and 1 assignment checklist in the front. That might be
The
more
best.
meaningful to a high school kid. High school kids are a little more, they are a little more socially aware. I don't want to do what's different than everybody else. I don't want to look different. I already have a little bit of a complex because now I have to get extra help anyway. I've been there, done that, and I was really resistant to any kind of help, or I'm going to do it my way, and kind of a thing. This would have really helped me, especially in high school because the workload is so much heavier.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could do a more simplified version at the high school level for sure. And you can always, do what works for your school. Just because this is the way we do it this way just because this is what works for what we do in a middle school. Your school might be totally different. So, I'm going to share a bunch of resources. I'll probably get them on the classroom today or tomorrow, but I'll have the assignment checklist on there. It's a Google Doc. You can make a copy of it and edit it, modify it. You don't want the colors in it, do what works best for you.
I just like the color. Like myself, I teach classes in my room and I have all my assignments, my grades, everything's in a color folder. Like that's what works. But try to get students, that are reluctant, and we do a homework folder, but trying to figure out that color system and some of that, but what works for them, like you said, tailoring it.
And all those infographics are printable. And so you could print those out and go over them with your students and say, hey, let's look at, there's something called executive function. It's this really weird thing. It's part of your brain. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Every person in the world, this is a part of everyone. But this is why I want to try this different thing with you guys. It's called just a color organization system. And this is why we're going to do it. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on the science behind it, but these are the reasons how it's going to help you. Please work with me. I know it's different and we don't like new and we don't like different, but this is going to help you.
Nope, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think the more you can be like honest with students, I was just thinking about my Google Calendar, which has about 5 different color coding systems, that I could say like, look, I have to do this and it really helps me, so why don't you try it? Be transparent and real with kids. Like, I need this help, so I thought it might help you.
Yeah, the Google Calendar is great for color coding things. I have some kids who chronically lose their paper schedules if they need a paper schedule. We are a Google school, and so every kid has a laptop and everything we do is through Google. So we just set their Google Calendar up to give them a notification, and it's color coded. So a big blue thing will pop up on their screen and say English in 10 minutes. And we can color code it that way. Another cool thing that one of our resource teachers is using, he doesn't use it for his kids yet, but him and his staff do it. is called Trello. He can color code that. That doesn't work for me. If it's online, and so you have to go online and check it. And I just know personally for myself, my executive function is the worst. And if I don't see it, it's not real and I'm going to forget about it. I like the idea of it, and it works great for his room. It does not work for me. So that's why we do the motherboard. And we also do that too, because we have so many service providers that come in my room and they need to know, oh, I got to get this kid for physical therapy before this time. Where are they at? They don't have to come hunt me down. They look at the board and they take off through the school and find a kid. And so it has helped our service providers a lot as well. Anybody else have any questions? Are you scared? Are you excited? I don't know. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to see what you guys do or how you change it up. I love to steal ideas from other people, so please.
Laramie shared in the chat that her fiance is the head softball coach at our community college here in Scottsbluff, and she thinks it would be an awesome idea for their athletes to help.
Oh yeah.
So maybe about how that works at the college level too. She can tell us all about it.
Ooh, that would be so cool, because the really awesome thing is, I know we're running over time, but I am doing my principal has asked me to do a couple days of training with our whole staff at the end of the year. And basically I'm just going to be using all the slides I used with you guys. So that's why I wanted you guys to try it, because the one thing I always tell them when I try to sell it to them, and they're chronically saying, this is too much work and kids are not going to get this and they're not going to do it. And I just always kind of pull the SPED card and say, well, that's really weird, because if kids with significant cognitive disabilities can be highly successful and independent with this, I'm sure your kids can do it too. You know, I hate to be kind of snarky like that, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can't argue with that. But it does work, and it's very good. And so I really want to be able to say, look at all these other people who do all these different jobs, and they could do it too. And this is what they did, and this is how they changed it up, and this is what they did. So I really want to get feedback from you guys to kind of prove my point and to be like, look, it's real. It's not just me telling you this. It's a real thing. People can do it. So I'm just excited to see what you guys come up with, or how you use it, or what you do. Take pictures too if you want to, share what you did too. That would be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Casey. I'm going to stop our recording.